It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That, of course, no way to mistake that. That's UFO, brand new stuff from the new album, A Conspiracy of Stars. That one was called Sugarcane. And on the line right now, we've got the drummer, the guy that we almost always speak to when we talk UFO. It's Andy Parker. Andy, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Excellent, man. Cold. It's
good,
cold.
Good.
It's cold here in Ohio.
It's cold, yeah, I bet. Yeah, I don't want to make you feel bad, but the sun's streaming through the window here right now. It's about 60, so yeah.
Thanks.
So Texas.
Thanks a lot. Well, Andy, I got to tell you, man, A Conspiracy of Stars continues what you guys have been doing for, I would say, the last since Monkey Puzzle. It's a continuation of the, I don't want to say rebirth, because that's a weird thing to say about a band that really never went away, but I'll say the re-strengthening of UFO, man. Another great record. Yeah,
I'm really, really in love with this record. It's interesting for me because, once I've cut the drum tracks, I never quite know how the album's going to sound, just for the way we work. I mean, we spent quite a bit of time in rehearsals with this one, and I had some idea of what Phil was going to be coming up with and what Vinny would end up with, but it's always exciting when you get the finished thing, to actually hear how it's turned out. And I'm really happy with it. I think I think from my point of view, this is a little edgier. It's gone a little heavier than the last three, which will probably please the diehards. Who've given us a bit of a hard time about the bluesy feel for the last three, but this one, I think it's a little edgier, and it was nice for me. I actually got to work with Rob in the studio this time rather than sitting in there on my own playing to scratch tracks. So sure. Rob and I actually cut all the tracks together in the studio, and in fact, Vinny sat in and did some rhythms on some of them. So that was nice. It was kind of like the old days when we were in there together. So
sure.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, Andy, let's talk about the direction of the record a little bit. You mentioned it, and I fully agree with you on it. This record definitely is a much thicker, heavier record than in the past, or the past couple anyway. What do you attribute that to? Is it strictly where Phil is at, or is it kind of where you guys all have developed, over the last touring cycle, or what?
Well, as usual, the material was, what the guys were writing at the time. That's always the way it works with this band. Time to do an album, what you got, So they'll chuck their ideas in the pot, we'll get stirred around a bit. Phil will make his picks. I like this one. Don't know if I can do anything with that one, and that's how they get chosen. So, maybe just this time round, the guys were in a little bit heavier frame of mind. But I think you've also got to take into account that this record was done with Chris Tangarides. So, we have ancient history with Chris. I mean, as people may not realize, but he was actually the assistant engineer on our first Christmas album, the Phenomenon album, which is our first album with Michael. And that was when Chris was first in the business, and we weren't, that long in there. So, and we haven't worked with him since, but we've, obviously watched his career with interest, and ended up with him on this one. And I think it shows, I think he brought out that slightly heavier edge for us. And like I said before, I'm really in love with this album, and I'm real happy with the way it turned out.
Excellent. Well, let's ask I'll ask a fairly dumb interview question, but it's just one that I almost always avoid, but I'm just beyond curious on this one, which is why I'll ask what is definitely a stupid interviewer question. But
hey.
what does the title mean? What is a conspiracy?
Man, I knew you were going to ask me that.
I've listened to the whole record 10 times, and I don't hear it or find a vibe to the title.
See, this is what I love. This is really what I love. Well, here's the deal. The title, when you make a new record, okay, it's got to have a title, unfortunately, and that can be a real pain at times. But Phil came up with this title right off the bat. It was the first thing he came up with. So I've got an idea for a title, Conspiracy of Stars. And I went, that's kind of cool, It's thought-provoking, which I love, But, in true managerial fashion, our manager said, we should think of some others. So So, there must have been 100 different ideas coming from everybody, right, left and center. And there was different ideas for cover art. But Tristan, who's done at least the last 3 for us, our good buddy Tristan Greatrex, he was, putting ideas together, and we went around this huge circle and ended up coming back to the original one.
Okay.
And so the title was decided. In the meantime, Tris has done, quite a few different ideas, and that one just seemed to stick. And and it is kind of strange because it's underwater. It's just not a lot to do with stars. But I kind of like that. It's kind of it leaves everyone to make their own mind up.
Sure.
So I can't really tell you what the idea behind it was, because it's different for everybody.
Right.
So what Phil's idea and what Vinny's idea and what my idea would all be different. But, I just like the fact, and we kind of have a history of that with our covers.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, when they go back, with Fawcett and No Heavy Petting, and,
right.
they're just like, what the hell is that all about? And it's kind of like I said, it's, it leaves people to make their own mind up, which I think is great.
Sure, definitely. And that's always kind of been the UFO way anyway, even with the songs, is I can't think of 5 songs in the UFO catalog where you listen to it and say, okay, well, that's about this, and you just know. It's all kind of interpretive, and it's...
Exactly, and I think Phil has a real knack for that, too.
Sure.
You start... And in fact, you listen to them, and I actually was sitting down reading some of the lyrics from the new album, and they're really quite thought-provoking when you get into some of them. Oh, yeah, I see where he was going with that, or do I, kind of thing. So,
right.
Like I said, that to me is way more interesting than having to just lay it out for you and spelled out in words of one syllable. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the way I hope we always go.
Sure. Now, I've always thought, Andy, that the music that you guys make, and you could tell me I'm dead wrong on this, but this is just what I've always thought for 30 however many years at this point. I've always thought that the messages behind the music of UFO have not only been locked into what Phil is saying. I've always had that vibe that, some of the guitar lines, especially in Michael's era, were directly related to what Phil was trying to convey lyrically. Is there truth to that, or is that just me imagining something?
No, I think that that applies with more than just us. I think when you kind of it's a chemistry thing with a band, isn't it? When a band's
Mm-hmm.
locked together, then I think a lot of what Vinny plays is expressing what Phil's saying, or what and what I play. It's all it's all to support the other person, rather than look at what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right in a way. I think that's why I love this band so much, because it always comes from the heart, and everyone gets a chance, and it's all kind of it's all for the greater good. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Mm-hmm.
about what guys can do or what you can do, or it's all about the band, and it always has been. That's why you won't see solos and stuff with this band. It's all about getting out there and playing to the people and as a band. So, yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, one of the things too going on with the Conspiracy of Stars is that you guys have about a dozen different varying ways that you can purchase this record. You've got it in obviously CD form, and I thought I saw that there was like blue vinyl that's coming out, and I just saw that there's
double blue vinyl, believe it or not.
Right, and there's also a USB flash drive, like a UFO flash drive that you can buy with the record. I mean,
yeah,
is that a reflection of how the industry is now, where you have to release it in several different formats so that people don't just blindly steal it?
Well, don't get me started on that one. I think I've told you about that before. That's my soapbox jobby right there. Anyway, no, I think there is a demand. I mean, who would ever thought we'd make another vinyl album? I think the last vinyl album I remember making was like in '83. And then I was out of the band for a long time. And when I came back and did Walk on Water in '94, obviously it wasn't pressed on vinyl. Vinyl was gone then,
right.
And I think, and even Monkey Puzzle didn't come out. I think the first vinyl that I saw again was Visitor,
okay,
which was when was that? 07, 08, somewhere around there.
Right.
You know, and that just shows you. And now it's like gone from strength. I mean, the fact that they're actually going to press it on a double vinyl. I mean, and I actually questioned. I said, how come, you know, double album? Well, we were a bit worried about the amount of time on there. We want to make sure it was loud, so we put it on too. It's like, great, man. You know, but. And as you say, and I think you do have to appeal. I mean, obviously, you want to attract a younger audience. Everyone does.
Mm-hmm. You
know, not by pandering to their taste, but you know, if they feel more comfortable with a USB drive, you know, more power to them. Let them have it on that. You know, it doesn't. Sure. It's something for everybody there, really, isn't there? But I mean, I have to say that the younger kids seem to be getting into the vinyl too. So,
sure.
You know, I mean, it's kind of odd because. Obviously, it isn't like vinyl was back in the day when it was analog. Right. You know, the whole thing was on tape to vinyl. So it's digitally recorded and pressed onto vinyl. But I think it still has, you know, it makes a difference. It gives you that kind of warm sound that we all miss.
It definitely does. Now, I'm not trying to get you on your soapbox, but and I'm not going to get into illegal downloading. But the replacement of the illegal downloading has been the services that are now there: the Pandora, the Spotify, the Rhapsody, etc. I'm under the impression that artists like yourself, that I'll call a heritage artist, that have, you know, a significant catalog, absolutely hate these kind of services. Am I right in that?
Well, you know, I don't hate them as services. I just hate the fact that, you know, they try and get away without paying the artist. You know, I mean, that's. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being able to access that music. It's just, you know, it's people's livings you're dealing with here. You know, and I may have said this before, but my analogy to this is always like, you know, when I was a kid, I never thought about going into a record store and sticking a record under my coat and walking out with it.
Right.
And, you know, neither will a lot of kids. You know, you're going to get caught. You know, it's wrong.
Right.
But, you know, it seems that with the internet, people just think it's like you know, they don't see it as a crime. It's like, oh, it's there, I can download it. They don't even think about the fact that, you know, it's stealing from somebody. So, you know, this is where the change needs to be. And I think, obviously, as artists, we need to be more aware of this. And there are obviously, you know, bona fide websites where people pay for the downloads, and they're not expensive, for crying out loud.
Right.
You don't want to pay for all the packaging and the actual plastic of the thing. You just want to get the, you know, the actual music. And then I don't, you know, that's fine, but you at least need to pay the people who've made it. You know, so like I said, don't get me started.
Right.
But you know, I mean, I think, you know, there just needs to be more control over this. You know, record companies need to be more aware. And like I said, there are services out there that are bona fide and do pay the artist. So, you know, my advice will be try and use those ones, not the ones that steal from us. So,
right.
So,
sure.
You know.
Well, and you know, and it's I've talked to a few people recently, and you know, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I'm curious what your take is. I have thought that maybe like with a Spotify, I'll use Spotify as an example only because it's you know, it's on demand, not because I'm picking on them. But
no.
Why does a record company feel the need to give the whole record? If you're doing a new record, why not give 4 songs, like a 4-song EP, and then if the people want to buy it from there, then they go and buy the whole record. It still gives them plenty to listen to and understand what they're doing.
I don't personally understand that either, and you have to be very careful. And I can tell you that this goes back a long way, and back in the 70s when we were, you know, touring extensively in America, and we had a new album out, and I don't for the life of me remember where it was, but we went on a radio station, an FM radio station, and, you know, and did a thing like I'm doing with you, and we played the entire album, you know, track by track, and discussed it. So lo and behold, our record sales for that area disappeared because everyone had got their tape recorders running,
and
they just got it for nothing, you know. And it was like almost before it was even out, you know. So you do have to be careful, and that was our fault. We didn't even see that coming.
Right.
So yeah, you do have to be a bit careful. But I don't know why. And as I say, I think they need to get, you know, to get a little bit more on the ball with this, record companies, and realise what's going on. Because it's money out of their pockets too. It's not affecting the artists, it's affecting them. You know, as for as a band, we are very fortunate to have a company still behind us. SPV, Steamhammer have been extremely supportive. And, you know, obviously, for them to carry on doing that, they need to be making some money. So, you know, for them to give money away doesn't make sense either.
Right.
So they just, you know, and I think it's, you know, it's like with anything new, it takes a while to get the get the machinery in place, but they need to do that, definitely.
Yeah.
And as I say, and as artists, we need to be a bit more aware about it too.
Sure. It's almost getting to the point, though, now where they've had enough time. I mean, it's really been,
you're
20
right.
years.
It really has. It really has. But, you know, I mean, speaking from somebody who's been in and out of this business for 40-odd years, I've never understood record companies. I don't think I ever will. You know, so you're probably asking the wrong guy.
Right, I hear you. Well, let me ask let me ask you a question that you probably definitely know. I'm sure you know. Let's talk about touring for UFO on A Conspiracy of Stars.
Right.
What's going on for you guys for I'm going to assume the entire year?
Yeah, well, I can give you, having just received an email about an hour ago from my illustrious management, I can tell you what's going on. We start, I leave Monday for Europe.
Okay.
And we have a month, which is pretty much Germany and Eastern Europe. We've got Czech Republic, Lithuania, places like that in there, and Switzerland. So that's for about a month. Then I come home for a while. Then in April, May, we leave again for the UK. So we've got an extensive UK tour starting in about mid-April and going into May.
Okay.
And then I'm home again. And then in June, we've got some festival stuff coming up in Germany and Bulgaria and possibly other places, but that's like June. July, same thing, festivals. We've got one in England, in Wales, in fact. So then September is when we're looking at starting here in the UK, in the US.
Okay.
So I haven't seen dates for that yet, so I'm not sure if it'll be East Coast, West Coast, where it'll be. But I think that's right now. That's the plan. Is the first leg of the American tour in September, October time, and then back into Europe right before Christmas, which is kind of normal for us.
Sure.
And then except for this last year because we were doing the album, so we didn't tour this last fall.
Right.
But then the second leg of the US in early 2016.
Excellent.
I don't need to be looking that far ahead, but that's what I've got. I just got that today. So
very nice.
But definitely, I'm leaving Monday to go somewhere cold like you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Andy, as we said, the new album is called A Conspiracy of Stars. I'll give my review right now. It is by far the best thing you guys have done since, Walk on Water, maybe? Sharks?
Thank you.
Somewhere.
Thank
I love it.
That. I'm really excited about it.
So why don't we wrap this up, Andy, with you picking a tune from the record and maybe telling us a story about it? What song are you liking from the record the most?
Well, you actually played Sugar Cane right before I came on, didn't you?
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Rollin', Rollin', and that was a really strong track, and it was the first actual line of lyric that I heard Phil come up with for this record. So, we were in rehearsals, and that was the first thing I ever heard, and that actually ended up on the record. So it was born at the beginning, and it's there at the end.
There we go.
Let's go with that one.
All right, well, let's check it out right now. This is UFO. It's Rollin' Rollin' right here on your Classic Metal Show.